Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Now today we're doing part 2 of my TBR Spin Out challenge on my channel, where I am basically just trying to get all these books off my physical TBR. Whether I keep them on the shelf or unhaul them is a question once I read them. So basically what I do in these videos is I spin a wheel, and that wheel has a whole bunch of prompts on it that can range from highest rated, lowest rated, largest book on my bookshelves, a book of a certain color, etc. So without further ado, let me get up the wheel so we can talk about what's on the wheel. So here we have the spin wheel of prompts. So as you can see, I've got a fair few prompts on there. I have added more since last time. Like I said in the last video, I will be adding more as I think of them, because I think that's like kind of fun, and then hopefully we get different ones each video. But this is the wheel at the moment. There's a lot of things on here that I'm unsure about, and I think there is about 2 or 3 segments of this wheel that doesn't take books off this shelf, but will take books off my TBR in other ways, whether it be ARC copies or Kindle books or books on this temporary shelf of mine. So without me rambling on too much longer, let me spin the wheel to see what our first prompt is for this video. The oldest book on my TBR. Okay, give me a moment so I can just double check that one for you. Okay, so without a doubt, there was definitely one book on my bookshelf that out of everything is definitely the oldest book on my bookshelf since last year. I unhauled a lot of ones that were the oldest since I did a video reading all the ones that have been on my bookshelf for the longest. So a lot of them have gone, but there is one left from 2017. And it's The Last Name Sarah by Kristen Ciccarelli. Now, I've read her newer series. I've started it at least. I read the first book, which is The Crimson Moth. So I have read that book by her, and I did really enjoy that. But this is going back probably, I want to say 7 years before. So we'll see how this one goes. But this is definitely by far my oldest book on my shelves, on my physical TBR at least, that I've owned for the longest. So yep, this is the one I'm reading. I have no idea what this is about, actually. Oh, I thought it was about pirates. Apparently, she's a dragon slayer. So dragons. I like dragons. If you're new to this channel, hello, my name's Jacinta. I love dragon books. So this is going to be really exciting. Let's see how it goes.
Before the Great Severing, raconteurs preserved stories. These sacred storytellers told the old stories aloud. Hallowed tales of the Old One, his first dragon, and his heroic Namsaras. The raconteurs passed these stories down from father to son.
So I thought I'd update you guys on where I'm up to in The Last Name Sarah. I'm now up to chapter 9, which is page 88. And I have a couple of little thoughts that I have and ways that I'm getting through this book, but I'm going to talk to you about what this book is basically about. So we're essentially following Asha, who is a dragon slayer. She's basically hunted down so many dragons and brought back their heads that they are dwindling. And so the only way for her to sort of summon the dragons to her so she can kill them is by telling the old stories. And the twist to this is that by telling the old story, she therefore makes it so the dragon can breathe fire. There's only one dragon in existence that can breathe fire regardless, but for the most part, the dragons can't breathe fire until their old stories are told. And their fire and their bite are toxic. So if dragon fire touches you, you go crazy and possibly die. So the thing about this is, our main character, Asha, her mother used to tell the old stories constantly. And that in turn had, I believe, summoned the first dragon. And this first dragon essentially obliterated a whole city and also caused a scar on Asha that goes from like her hairline all the way down the left-hand side of her body. And she ended up getting the name Ascari because she was blamed for this happening to people, and she was carried out of this situation by this certain guy named Jarek. So she is now, after all of this, betrothed to this Jarek guy with the intent, her father's intent, to get her through this and to also save his hide, basically. So essentially she's now, years later, like 8 years later, she's now hunting the dragons down. And her father calls her in and says to her that the first dragon has been seen again. And if she can kill this dragon, then she doesn't have to marry Jarek, because Jarek isn't a great dude. So she's at all costs like, I need to kill this dragon to get out of this. And essentially this is all happening at the start of this book. So yes, I'm up to chapter 9. I knew all this information by chapter 5. So where I'm at the moment is I've been really struggling to read this book. I've been really struggling to concentrate on it. It's not that I don't like the book at all. I love the main character. I'm enjoying the plot that's unraveling as we go, and I'm enjoying everything about it as far as the storylines going and the dragons and everything, and the fact that it seems like we're not being told everything. But I have found that the only way for me to get through this book is going to be to listen to the audiobook while I'm reading it. So I'm going to immerse myself in it a bit more, focus on it a bit more, and hopefully it does better, because I have the 3 books in this series. They are not all following the same character. They're following different characters for each book, different female characters. And I have faith that it'll be good because I know her writing is good and I know I normally love it. But a mix between how small this writing is, which I don't know if you can see how small that is, but it's tiny as, and how slow this has sort of come into this book. I am having a little bit of trouble with it in that respect. But I think so far, from chapter 5 to chapter 9, I've been listening to the audiobook and it hasn't taken me long at all, because I can put the audiobook on the same speed that I read in my head and I can just read along, and it's just been so helpful with my concentration. So for now, this is still the book that I'm reading. I'm still enjoying it. I'm starting to open it up a bit more, which is starting to get a bit more exciting for me. So I'm hoping to finish this book today, because when I'm listening to an audiobook, I get through it quicker, and I'm hoping immersion reading will actually help me get through it even quicker than that. So I'm going to get back into this book and hopefully finish as much as I can today. It is going to be hard to do. It is 6:20 at the moment. And once like 7 o'clock hits, that's when I have to get up, feed the dog, do dinner, all the things that I got to do, have a shower, get ready for bed. Everything is in those couple of hours. So we will see how much I can get done today. If anything, maybe I'm updating you tomorrow on how far through this book I've gotten and what my thoughts are on it. So I will see you then. But until then, I will be here. Okay, so it's the next day and I've now finished The Last Name Sarah. And the only way that I got through this is with the audiobook while I was reading the words. So immersing myself in the book is in fact the only way I went through this. So I don't think I gained interest in the characters. I think that I gained interest in the plot. I do wish in this book that the dragons had more of a connection to the plot, a connection to the characters than they did. I felt like I was meant to feel a higher connection than I was feeling, and that unfortunately meant that my experience didn't really improve. Now I don't know what it is about it, about the writing, that didn't capture my attention at first. Like her other series, the Crimson Moth series that's sitting right here, does so much better to capture me into the story, and it could very well be that the whole book is in third person, because I can tell that there was beautiful storytelling. I could tell that certain things weren't as they seemed, and I could tell the beauty of the dragons in this world and the beauty that they used to be. And I feel like it was just lacking a tiny bit of depth to make me feel a little bit more. It was very surface level. So unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I think I'm giving this a 3-star because I can see the intention and I can see where the plot was trying to go. But unfortunately, I feel that I might have to unhaul. But unfortunately, I do feel that I might have to unhaul all the books. So as much as I just read the first book, and yes, I struggled with it, but I did enjoy how it ended. I enjoyed the connection between two certain characters. I just wanted a little bit more from it. And I don't feel like I got that little bit more to make me want to continue the series, because the series isn't following this main character. I believe this one follows her brother's fiance or wife, I think. And then this one follows her cousin. So it's in the same world, but it's very set out differently, especially this last one, which is definitely corresponding with pirates. And I've had a little bit of iffy time with pirate books in the past, and if we're layering it onto how this one was written, I don't think I'm going to end up enjoying it. I did enjoy the dragons, as always. I enjoy dragons in books. I just wanted a little bit more depth to the dragons themselves, because the connection just seemed instant, and I just didn't really appreciate that as much for my reading experience. So I'm taking these 3 books off my shelves, which means that's taking 2 off my physical TBR, and I think that they can go to someone who's going to really, really enjoy them, because they've been sitting on my shelf for years. So these ones are going, and now we have to spin the wheel to find out what the next book I'm going to read is. So let me just open that up. So here is the wheel again. Now we're going to spin it for the second time in this video. I do hope that it gives me more of a choice than the last one did, because I feel a little bit of a slump coming on, and I feel like a mood read is the way to go. So I'm hoping something here sort of combines with that a little bit and makes it a little bit easier on my reading today. I almost got a free pick. That was pretty cool. Okay, shortest book. I think I know which one that is, but I'm going to double check with Goodreads first. So this turned out a little more complicated than I first thought. I thought that Hemlock and Silver was going to be my shortest book, because it seems to be the thinnest on my shelves. But this one has 355 pages in it. And the shortest book that's on my shelves is actually Six Scorched Roses, which comes in at 218 or 211. But the problem with this is, I understand that it doesn't come necessarily after Serpent and the Wings of Night and before Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, but I really need to reread this book before I go into this series again. And therefore, if I'm meant to read this book before this book, I would then have to read this. So instead of doing that, I thought, what's the next smallest book that I own? And the next smallest book is The Baby Dragon Cafe. Now, I'm going to read this one because I think that it'd be pretty cool if I made this whole thing a dragon vlog. I think I've heard not fantastic things about it, but I've also heard it's just a really fast read. So maybe it'll be even better. This one is 309 pages. So this, in fact, is the book I'm going to be reading. Another dragon book. I'm very excited for it. We'll see how this goes. This is more cozy fantasy. So hopefully it's a little bit easier on me. Again, I didn't really get to pick my read. I almost landed on free pick. I almost got really excited. But it's okay because this one's a little bit easier and shouldn't take too much out of me. And I honestly don't really have as close a connection to it. So there's not as much invested in this one as there was in the last book that I was reading. So I will read this and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I'm talking a little bit lower because right behind that wall, my partner's actually asleep. It is in fact midnight that I'm updating you, but I thought I'd give you my thoughts on the Baby Dragon Cafe at the moment. So essentially this book is what it says on the cover. She's running a cafe that allows baby dragons to be brought in, sort of like bringing your dog to a cafe is essentially what it is. And she's currently having trouble keeping it open because the baby dragons keep incidentally setting things on fire or ruining things in the cafe, which is going to happen when you got baby dragons breathing fire. She comes across this gardener who basically says, you know, I'll pay you if you can train my baby dragon for me. And that's basically the premise of this book. So I've gotten 106 pages in, which is up to chapter 10. And I have some decisions that I had to mull over really, really harshly. So essentially, I'm enjoying the cultural aspects of this book. I enjoy that it's not the typical sort of atmosphere that you get from a fantasy book. The cultural elements coming from the country that the author is clearly from is really, really good. Coming from a Muslim country is good to read about that cultural element of it. But my problem is that the writing is hitting something that I would have read when I was in start of high school, late primary school. So middle grade into young adult. And unfortunately, on top of that, there was a really, really lazy editor that hasn't edited this quite well enough. Things are being repeated exactly the same. Things are being over-explained. There's certain things that just aren't, not the writing bad, but just aren't for, I don't know how to word this, but aren't for like an older audience that I think this is targeted at. Because let me just look up the genre of this book, because I swear it's coming across like young adult, but it's like trying to be adult. So this is meant to be a cozy fantasy romance novel. So I would assume adult, not young adult. But it's leaning young adult in the writing, but trying to do adult elements. I also don't know how I feel about the baby dragons being described like dogs. Like they have paws, and she calls them dragos, like doggo, but drago. And like they're being trained like a dog gets trained. I just feel like there should be something extra with a dragon, you know, something different. I don't understand why it has to be such a modernized version of training dogs, but it's baby dragons. I just don't understand why that has to happen. So like I said, I had a full argument with myself about DNFing this book, and I was thinking to myself, why am I not DNFing it? Why am I so attached to this book? And I think honestly, the reason I'm so attached to this book is because of the premise of it. And it could have been so good, but I think I'm DNFing this book. I think I've given it a good enough chance. 106 pages in, like I'm up to there, that far through. I just feel like at the moment this is giving 2 stars. So to me, and me wanting to mood read this year and not put myself in a slump, and the fact that I have actually been struggling this month, like at this rate I'm halfway through the month, or just over halfway through the month, and I am really, really struggling. I just feel like it's not worth me pushing through this. Like I know what's going to happen. We've basically been said it turns into it's a grumpy sunshine, but he's not really grumpy, he's just shy. And like, she's not really sunshine. She gets upset every 5 seconds, and then she forgives people straight away, and that was bugging me as well, but that's beside the point. I just don't think it's worth me continuing this book when it's looking like a 2-star, and it could go downhill. I know there's a fake marriage thing in here. Ugh, unnecessary. I know that there's 2 other books in this series. The next one's called The Baby Dragon Bakery. I know who it's going to be following. It's not following these characters. I just don't think that I need to read it. I think it's too young in the writing style for me right now. So, DNFing this. But while I'm here at midnight, let's spin the wheel again to see what book that I'm going to read next, because I need something, because this was giving me nothing. Like I said, cultural elements good, baby dragon's cute, nothing. So let me get the wheel up to respin again. Okay, so just let me go in here and shuffle and save that. And now we're going to spin the wheel to see what off my TBR I'm going to read with these prompts. I'm a little bit nervous about this one actually. Okay, that's really easy, because I'm slumping at the moment, so that's like one of the perfect ones. So I'm going to pick one by a favourite author. Easy peasy. Okay, so this was a little bit interesting to pick from because I have narrowed it down to 3 different authors that have books that are manageable size for me right now. And one of those authors I couldn't pick between 2. So to start with, I have put aside Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco. Now, this is in fact her first book that she wrote, I think. Maybe I should research these things first, but I'm sure this is the first book she wrote. It has James Patterson Presents at the top, which is how she got her name out there. So obviously I've read her Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy, and in the last episode of this video I read the first book in the spin-off of that series. But I have not in fact read her initial series, her original series that I had on my shelves. So this would in fact be a good one to read. And it did come very close to the last prompt, which was the shortest book on my shelves. I think the Baby Dragon Cafe won because it was 20 pages shorter. So this is still quite short and easy, and it looks to me like it would be easy for me to get through. I do believe it's for a younger audience. And then we have a book from Hannah Bonham Young, which is Out in the Woods, which is the sequel to Out on a Limb, which was a 5-star read for me last year, and I absolutely loved her writing. I loved her banter. The problem I have with this option is that, did I like that book so much because it had such good disability representation in it, and am I going to love a romance between people that are already married and they have to rekindle their romance? That's what I have to think about with this one. And then, if you're new to my channel, I have a guilty pleasure author, and it is Paisley Hope. Now, with Paisley Hope, she has one more book out in the series that I've completely read apart from this book, which is Freeing the Wild, and I believe it is a country pop star, country singer, whatever. And who is he? Someone that works on the ranch that the family owns. I don't know what I think of going into this right now, but she also has this book, Wolf E, which is dark romance, and it's a little bit different to the cowboy romance that she was writing or is writing, because there is one more lined up for this series. I'm pretty sure it has a firefighter, so this is also an option. I have really got to think about this. Okay, for a start, straight away, I'm going to take Out of the Woods out of this pick because I think I talked myself out of it a little bit for now. So this is going away for later, acknowledging that my brain is at a struggle point with reading at the moment. This one is a fairly large contender at the moment. I do really want to read it. The problem I have at the moment with this is, am I going to enjoy this more at a different point in time after the month I've had with reading? I think honestly, this one might have to wait. It has waited a while. When did I buy this book? I think I bought this book when the last book came out. This book was competing with the first book in this video with being the oldest on my shelf. It came out a year after that one. Yeah, okay, that's for a different time. So that leaves me with picking between 2 Elsie Silvers. So this one, Freeing the Wild, escape the Wild West with a sizzling cowboy romance that will leave you breathless. I just have a really fun time with these books. I think they're really great and cool, and I don't know, good palate cleansers, I think these ones are. This one, on the other hand, intrigues me greatly. I think it's a motorcycle gang, something, dark romance, read dark romantasy. I have read dark fantasy. I have yet to read dark romance. So it would be my first foray into dark romance. I think this would be a tame stepping stone, so I think this would be a good stepping stone into it. I also only know her writing from the context of cute, funny cowboy romances. So this one says dark, dangerous, daring, an addictive motorcycle club romance that will get your pulse racing. Do I want to be left breathless, Or do I want my pulse racing? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm going to read this one. I think it's because I kind of want this one to be read closer to the next release as well, because I like reading them alongside each other. So I'm going to read this one, and that has made my decision for me. So I will update you when I've read a little bit of Wolfie. Now I'm coming back to you a day later. Once again, I keep doing this to myself. I don't update you halfway through the book, and I update you when I finish the book. So I've just finished Wolf E. I don't know if that's how you pronounce the title, because his last name is Wolf, but there you have it. So this is not by any means my first dark romance that I've ever read. So I wasn't surprised by scenes in it, as other people might be starting out into dark romance. I will say, majority of this book is spice. If you don't like that, don't read it. That's as simple as that, honestly. Also, if you don't like the idea of a motorcycle club that's not really doing the most legal things or safe things, maybe don't read it either. It's not a book for people that don't like that sort of thing, because that is basically all it is. When I'm going into this book, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't know what I was going to feel about it, and honestly, I was annoyed by the main male character at the start. I think this is my personal issue though, because I have an issue with men who want to control women, and that overpowers a lot of feelings I might have about some cutesy things they might be doing that are like morally good. But I didn't like him at the start because he was so aggressively controlling that it actually was triggering me a little bit. But he got better, and I started to enjoy the book a little bit more. I will say it's not the most amazing book I've read. I don't go into Paisley Hope's books knowing that they're going to be miraculous pieces of literature. I don't go into them thinking they're going to be the best piece of writing I've ever read in my life. I go into them for a fun, silly, good time with a little spice. If I'm being honest with you, this book just plainly had too much running for me. There was a lot of him saying run and her running. Too much running. My little legs can't take the running. I don't agree with the running. I don't think that's okay. I did love that she sort of blossomed out of herself. I loved her sort of journey into becoming a stronger, more independent woman that she always wanted to go on, but she went on in this book. And I really liked that at the end of it, it wasn't just a toxic, controlling relationship. It was a purely perfect match at the end of it. I think at this stage, I'm thinking this one is a 3-star for me. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't amazing. There were some eye-rolly bits. Half the spice was for me. Half the spice was not. Things that I'm interested in at all. I think I skipped a whole chapter somewhere in there because what they were doing in that spice scene just didn't interest me. So I did skip past that chapter, which is what is also good. You can basically skip past a chapter of spice here and there and not lose the plot, which I really do enjoy as well. So yes, a 3-star for Wolf E, which is pretty much where I thought it would fall because I wasn't quite sure what was happening. And I honestly do think that there could be books in this series that get better than this. I think purely this main male character for me was probably not my most favourite character, and that's okay. But the future books, maybe I will find a favourite male character. It just wasn't him, and I don't think that that's the writing at all. I think that's just the character itself and personal preference. So yes, if I'm being honest with you, I sped through this. I didn't expect to read it as fast as I did, but I did. And it's done now, and I have minimal thoughts, but just know that I did like it, and I am pleasantly surprised that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, because at the start, it was definitely lining up as a 2-star, but it really turned itself around. So with that being said, I honestly think I have enough time in this video to do one more book. So let me spin the wheel for the last time for the last pick of this video. Okay, so I've pulled up the wheel again, and we're going to spin for the last time. I'm really nervous because I really don't want to read the longest book on my shelves. Knowing me, saying that will get me that role, so let's hope not. Let's spin for the last book. minus 400 pages. Okay, I can do that. That's good. That's the opposite of what I said, so it's fine. Let me see what's on my bookshelf for minus 400 pages. Okay, so that took me a little while to figure out what one I wanted to pick. And I had a choice in my hand. Then I thought, no, I'm going to look at how long the next book in the series I just read was. And lo and behold, it is less than 400 pages. So the next book I'll be reading is Dove by Paisley Hope, which is the second book in the Soldiers of Bedlam series. And I fear that I have to pick this one up because at heart, I am a series binger, and the third book just had its cover released, and I just applied for the ARC copy of it. So in the hopes that I receive the ARC copy of the third one and don't have to wait till July, I'm going to read the second one. So I'll see you in the next clip once I've read a bit of this one. So I have now finished Dove by Paisley Hope, and the reason why I didn't update you guys when I was a little bit through it is because nothing really happened in this book that I wanted to talk about. The thing about this book is it's following the married couple who are getting married in Wolf. So at the start of this book, there's a couple that are getting married. That is this couple. So this book technically comes before Wolfie and after Wolfie. So in the timeline of things, it comes beforehand, but in the order of books, it comes second. I think if this was first, I wouldn't have continued the series. This book is approaching a lot of things that would have been really good to go into depth with, like PTSD with someone who has fought for their country, even delving into sort of a murder mystery of sorts in this one. The problem is that the whole thing was so two-dimensional that I didn't care about the characters. There was no depth to the characters. There was no depth to their stories. There was no depth to their romance. So as much as I liked the main male character of this book more than I did the last book, when it comes to like relationship wise, I also didn't like it because all of the dark romance parts were basically like they'd been cut out and pasted into the book. It's like they didn't quite fit in the spots that they were put. It didn't make sense for the concept of the story. It probably could have gone without them, but then again, it wouldn't have been as exciting without them. The most exciting part of this book is spoiled in the prologue. So if you're going to read this book, I actually recommend skipping the prologue until maybe just before the epilogue. Maybe read the prologue just before chapter 53 or chapter 52. Just before then, read the prologue and then it'll fit in. Other than that, it actually gave away the most dangerous, exciting part of the book, and I didn't really appreciate that as much because it lost the anticipation because I knew what was coming. The prologue of this book did the same thing. It had the prologue that basically had one of the dangerous things that happened in the book was in the prologue. The thing is, it wasn't the main end thing that was spoiled. It was something that happens halfway through the book. And then when you get halfway through the book, you find out the opposite perspective of that event happening. It made sense in this one. In this one, however, it did not make any sense. It spoiled the whole thing. So what was left of the book was very flat, dry, just didn't entice me at all. So unfortunately, this book is going to get a 2.5. It almost got a 2. And on Goodreads, it will have a 2 because I don't have a half ratings on there. But this is one of my guilty pleasure authors, and this is my least favourite book so far. I imagine that the third book in this series won't be as bad as this one was. I imagine that's more exciting because it's following a character that's in both the first two books and the president of an opposing motorcycle club. So I feel like that's going to be a lot more interesting, maybe have a lot more dynamics like Wolfie did. I don't know how long it took for this one to come out. I do know that Wolfie was initially a standalone or possibly was lined up for another series. And then the series title got changed to Soldiers of Bedlam. And then Dove came out and now Fox is coming out. I haven't been approved for the ARC copy of Fox yet. So it didn't really work in luck-wise, so far at least. But I am excited to still read the third book in this series and to still read her other country romances. The problem is that this book just wasn't it, unfortunately. So with that being said, and that book done, and that book coming in at a 2.5 stars, that means that that's the end of this video. So I started off this video with 131 books on my physical TBR. Now, I may have read or unhauled this whole stack of books, but I also hauled 4 books today because I'm having a little bit of a stressful day today. My puppy has just gone into getting de-sexed, so it's her surgery day today, and my partner decided to de-stress me by buying me some books. So I have 4 more books on my TBR, but before that I took off 6 books off the TBR. So if I started with 131 and took off 6 books, that takes it down to 125, which technically when I finished the book last night made sense. So I would have had 125 left, but because I've bought 4 more, I have 129 on my physical TBR. It was almost more. I'm not going to lie to you. It was almost more. I almost hauled 6 books instead of 4, but I held back. So it still remains under 131 books. I have no self-control. I've had self-control all year so far, the 2 months of the year. Apparently that didn't last when I'm stressed. So unfortunately, I didn't get as many off the TBR as I would have liked since I added to it, but I still am in the positive when it comes to getting things off my TBR. So, as I said, this is the stack of books we either completed or are getting unhauled in this video. The 2 on top are remaining on my shelf, and the 4 on the bottom are all going to be unhauled off my shelf, which will leave room for more books. I say that, but I think I have in fact filled the gaps that those books have left. So we're still working on it a little bit. But if you did enjoy this video, I do have a playlist on my channel that I've started with this series on it, and episode 1 is on there if you wanted to go back and watch episode 1. Also, if you did enjoy my video, I would appreciate if you could like or subscribe, because I'd love to build a community of people that we can just talk about books constantly and just have a good time. So until the next video, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your month and a wonderful rest of your week as well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.